Hey y'all, welcome back to the ranch. I'm Jared Paul, and today we're going to do a first pruning on this blueberry Vaccinium coriambosum. In parentheses, its nickname is a Blu-ray. So they grow to 4 to 6 feet tall normally, and they say to plant them 4 to 5 feet apart. So that would be if we were growing them as blueberry bushes. I do have 3 blueberry bushes on the property, and they're in front of the deck, and they're a couple years old now, and they're really starting to produce a nice amount of berries. So that's cool, but I really want a blueberry bonsai. So that's what I've been training this one as. I actually, when I got it, it was a stringier one in the nursery. You know, that's what was the appeal. It already looked like a little tree. It didn't look like a bush. So this past year, it's got a ton of growth. These 2 new shoots came out of the base. And what I want to do today is get a close-up and get this moss pulled to the side and see actually if it is one base or if they're coming volunteering as separate trunks, in which case I want to remove them. And do I want to try a new technique today and maybe air layer these and then have a couple new trees rather than just pruning them off and discarding them or trying to root them after as a cutting. So we got a lot to do, a lot to think about and look at, and we also have a couple of trees in here. I believe this is either a maple or a Korean birch that grew just from a seed that had flown in, and then this is, I believe, a dead attempt at an arborvitae cutting. So we'll take a closer look at all that coming up on today's episode of Jarhead Bonsai. Alright, so I'm going to get right in here. I'm going to try to remove, look at all these leaves in the garbage. I typically leave leaves going into winter, and then I remove them in the spring because they're like a protective barrier in my brain, or even potential compost. I don't know. It's just what I do. To each their own. So these are all the blueberry leaves. I think they're perfect for bonsai because they're already pretty small. They got a nice little feminine, elliptical type of shape. So blueberries also my favorite fruit. Blueberries and mangoes for sure. I flip-flop between them depending on which one I'm eating at the time. So just a quick cleanup job here, and then I'm going to, what's this? Might be a little sprout coming out the side. And then I'm going to remove the moss. I'm going to save the moss, try to keep it in as big a piece as possible. And I'm going to get that soaked and set to the side. And we'll take a look at exactly where this thing meets the soil and what type of trunk we're working with. I should have vacuumed before company came over. Right, I should have cleaned up these leaves before I even started the video. Okay. So, that being said, let's get this moss off. Some nice moss. If you're into moss and you're thinking about adding it to your plantings or cultivating it or, I don't know, removing it from the great outdoors and bringing it in, there's a great video on Back Garden Bonsai. It's a recent video Ian did, and it's got a lot of great information. I have had very little success with bringing moss for my indoor plants, with the exception of the ones that I brought right to the basement greenhouse to go into dormancy for winter. It seems to have lasted through winter like that. It's coming up in some nice clumps. And it came with a nice mat of moss. It was really pot bound, but I left the moss there, and it kind of it maintained that pot's ring. It's kind of unsightly in a way. And this is in just a big old plastic terracotta colored pot. really ugly. It's got some broken edging, but I really didn't care about that. I just wanted to be able to get those roots spread. I think I got it at an awkward time to repot, something like that. I got this blueberry before I even really started and decided I was going to do bonsai. I just thought it was a cool little tree to have in the garden. So this would be one of my older trees. I've probably had it 4 years now. Alright, so it's looking like it is one trunk. And we got a little burl here. It looks like I'm going to get a lot more shoots popping out of there if I wanted it to, or I could just, you know, multiple times throughout the growing season just prune those back to discourage the new growth. So what do we think? These two, the original two, have this really nice like flaking bark, so it gives them some aged look to them. And then these are both growing right out of the base of them. So they weren't a part of the original, but it is a young tree. I don't like the idea of 4, I like the idea of 3. This one seems to be coming, you know, from an inch or so up, so it's not right where the trunk starts, so I like that aspect. And even this one is a little bit upwards from there, so I don't think there would be, you know, that faux pas of growing something from the joint of another branch. So there's nothing saying I can't leave these 4. All right, let me back it out a little bit, y'all, and we'll decide what we're gonna do. Considering doing is, since it's early on and you know they are indoors, so I could claim it as an early spring now that I brought it up from the basement greenhouse. I think I'm going to use my root hormone powder and skin about a 1-inch section here on both of these. Actually, I'll do it here on this one because I'm going to keep this branch. And then I'll do it at the base of this one. And let's see if we can't air layer, you know, these 2 branches. And then I'll prune this one off. This will be its own tree. And then I'll prune this one off the top. That'll be its own tree. Probably, I don't know, I would assume in May it would be, whether it worked or not, you know, it'll show itself then. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to set it to a time lapse, and I'm going to skin 1-inch sections, rub with rooting hormone powder, cover in sediment, peat mossy sediment, and I will wrap that in. I haven't decided yet, so that's what's going to be coming up right now. I'll get All right, y'all, so let's just talk a little bit about what I did before I let you get on out of here. Yeah, I think this is a little baby. It's a little baby blueberry here. So I'll get that planted in a tiny little pot. Ooh. I'll be right back. What the hell is ADD? All right, so I'm gonna seize the moment and get a little, this blueberry, it's kind of swirly. It looks like it was coming out from under the moss and was just reaching for sun. I mean, look at that. Cool find. So I'm just gonna throw it in a pot real quick with this Bonsai Supply soil and get that soaked in. Seize the day, right? That could be a funny story, how it was born. This is Bonsai Supply mixed up, pre-mixed bonsai soil. It has larger granules. That's why I didn't even bother with a screen, because I knew that the lava rock and pumice and perlite and such would not go through. All right, let me get that water. All right, cool. So I utilized some of that moss we pulled off earlier. I got this bad boy watered, and I'm just gonna let it sit in here and drain while we finish. But that is so dope. That is the cool surprise of the day. Okay, so back to task at hand. What I did was I took a 3-inch paring knife, and I suggest always working the blade away from yourself. I'm pretty skilled with the knife, so I have a lot of experience. So if it looked like I was just going fast or freestyling, whatever, I was still being careful. So please be careful if you use a knife. I took the seed pouches that I mixed a little peat moss starter mix in, and those are biodegradable pouches, and so roots can grow through them. It doesn't hinder root growth through, but it's a great way to start your seeds and then be able to plant them elsewhere without having a transplant. So that's why I had those. I think it'll do a good job with this air layering too, because it'll retain some moisture. It has that nice fine peat starter moss, which is good for fine new roots. And then I just wrapped it up in some aluminum foil. And I will just make sure that it gets enough moisture. And obviously this is going to be in my plant room, so that I can get these buds an early start on spring. Now, if you look at the canopy really quickly, I have a nice amount of buds and I have no cross branching. So I know I pruned this at some point last year. I'm thinking probably the spring, and it's just, it's set up well. No, you know what? I pruned this at the end of fall. So even though I haven't done anything with the roots, I had pruned it. And so once the roots grow in, if we have a successful air layering, this will get removed and it will then be a 3-trunk tree. And I'll start this one here and allow it to begin its branching there. It's pretty thick already. These are a little thinner, so I'm gonna allow them just to stay. I'm not gonna nip any tips on them today. I'm gonna leave this maple and/or birch, and we'll see if this arborvitae will come back. So, all right, the swirly blueberry mame, the surprise of the day. Hopefully that'll take and be cool. And the new technique of air layering, that's what we're trying out. So thanks a lot for visiting me today here on the ranch, y'all. Lots more to come, so check back, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Take care.